So I'm actually making this podcast on the day it's supposed to come out. But I think that's okay. I want to check in first, let you know how I'm getting on with my digital detox. I am almost 3 weeks in now, I'd say. I'm kind of, pretty much. And I've kind of broken through the hardest part, I think. Last week, or the lead up to last week, was quite hard. A digital detox can be a hard thing, I think, if you're already living in maybe an isolated situation, because it's more, the whole idea is that, like, just replace it with human connection. But if that's not very close to you, then it's maybe not so suited. But I ploughed on anyway, and it's definitely gotten easier. One of the things I've liked is that I started missing my podcast and like having voices talking to me like a lot. And I have gone back. I have started listening to podcasts a little bit, but kind of in a healthier way. But before then, I felt this craving, to have this kind of dialogue talking to me the way I'd become used to, I guess, to distract me from myself. So I started kind of saying, like, at that time where I could feel I was anxious because I had to be with myself, like, I started kind of saying to myself, it's okay, I'm listening, I'm here. Kind of trying to self-soothe a little bit. And that worked pretty well, actually. This thing's falling off my head. So I'll talk about what gave me the idea to make this video. I was watching, before my detox, I was watching a video of this Australian man in Trinity College in Dublin, and somebody was interviewing him, just one of these guys who's like, what's your worst experience you've ever had in your life? To like a stranger on the street. So he was talking to one of these people anyway into a camera, and he explained that he was there because his grandfather had gone to Trinity, and his grandfather had since passed, and he was trying to kind of feel connected to him. And in Ireland we get this a lot. It's more commonly Irish Americans than Australians. But you get people coming here to find their roots, where their family came from, however many generations ago, it varies. And we kind of ridicule it a little bit. Like, there's kind of jokes here about how, you meet an American and you say you're Irish, and they'll say, oh, my uncle's cousin's dog Walker was Irish, So I guess, like, they're trying to cling to kind of Irishness, and that's something that we would kind of, as I say, kind of have disdain for before. But I've been having kind of this feeling, especially after watching that video, the man being interviewed was really lovely, where I feel we should embrace our diaspora as Irish people, because they are descendants of a displaced people, and their ancestors endured the same things that ours did, famine, oppression, extreme poverty, and were possibly worse affected by it because they were pushed to leave. Sometimes the people who left were either poorer than the people staying, and then you had people staying who were so poor they couldn't afford to leave. But it wasn't generally wealthy people who left, We could do with starting to kind of embrace them a little bit more, I think. I think we need to, in order to sort of remain whole and give the welcome that we're so famous for. However, this comes with a caveat. I think Irish Americans and other diaspora do kind of need to tread carefully, because there's something that they can do that does legitimately annoy Irish people. And that thing is, don't call yourself Irish. You are Irish American. And that is a legitimate cultural group, but they are culturally distinct. I see American stars, who are Irish descended, refer to themselves as Irish. It's like, well, you're not Irish, you're American. Why? Because in terms of genealogy, yes, you are Irish, but being Irish is so much more than that. It's living here and growing up here and the things that you take on through that. It's what's on the TV, what's on the radio, having your first case of the GA pitch or the teenage disco, Joe Duffy, 99 ice creams, Leia Nishka Korokmutna, Churokagas Nakeshna, Ago and Lisku Proper. All of these references are things that people get if they've lived and grown up in Ireland for a significant time. And that stuff does matter, and it is a part of Irishness. And by the same token, people who don't have any Irish genealogy but grow up here are also Irish. It's also the restrictiveness, the shame, the tall poppy syndrome, the greed, the national insecurity. Kind of grates on me when outsiders romanticize Irishness and Irish people, because it's like, yeah, it might look good from the outside, but we have to be it. And there are aspects of being Irish and growing up Irish which are not enjoyable or not great, like any culture, any people. But these things, good and bad, are part of the Irish experience just as much as genealogy, and they might be more important. So it's what you know from living and growing up in a place. That's culture, and that is Irishness, just as much as, if not more, than being Irish by genealogy. And by that same token, somebody who is not ethnically Irish or genealogically Irish at all, who's born here or grows up here, knows those things, and is Irish, through their life and the culture they've grown up with and around. Now, the last thing I want, obviously, is to be the Irishness police, but I think it's worth delineating these different lines of culture and genealogy, because both matter, and both people who only fit into one group are both Irish in their own way. But I think there's an importance that growing up in a country gives you in a context to the people there and the life there. And I don't know how much you can claim it if you don't have that. So this was a bit of a shorter one today. I'm going to try and keep them shorter. I didn't introduce myself at all at the start of the video. I just realised. I'm Sarah Bella. This is my podcast. I post every Wednesday. Let me know what you think in the comments. Or just say hello. I'd love to hear from you. And check out my music if you're interested. And see you again next week.